Okay. Hi.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Post Thanksgiving and all the family drama and chaos that a lot of people have endured.
Yes.
Hopefully
And
not.
now we're here. Hopefully not. Hopefully our episode helped with that. So today we're answering 3 questions, but before you do that, let's remind people about what's going on your page.
Got a lot of great giveaways of all my favorite non-toxic items, specifically 5 of my favorites. We've got 5 of my favorite home items, 5 of my favorite oral health items, and then we're going to end it with a big announcement on Friday.
So if you're not following or you're not paying attention, go and turn your notifications on because you don't want to miss this. So today
You
we're
sound
going to
very
go
enthusiastic, by the way.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying to be like cool because we're doing this without editing and I don't want to say something stupid.
There you go. Okay, go.
Okay, so we're going to answer like 3 questions that I think a lot of parents have and don't know how to handle. And we're going to do it in a very succinct way. So if anyone wants a deeper dive on this, let us know and we'll come back and do a longer episode. You and I have been discussing this concept of like how to say no to your children. And I know in our family, sometimes there's like a no followed by like, well, okay. And there are negotiations and,
Mhm.
that's not the right thing. I know.
Oh,
So,
it's not that that's not the right thing. It just you get into a bad cycle.
right. So talk to us about saying no and what that should look like. And
What I think that most parents don't realize is how often kids say, or rather, kids hear the word no.
Mm,
Uh, I think some studies have shown that like it's hundreds of times a day that your child will hear the word no. Uh, and I think we get into this over controlling battle with our kids when it could be a lot simpler than that. Um, and then the other part that you mentioned is like the overindulging, right? Where you say no, but then they negotiate and you're like, well, okay, maybe just a little bit of the cookie right now. Uh, and then that doesn't work because then they know, oh, well, when I argue or when I keep pushing back, it works. Uh, so I think we have to figure out what our boundaries are when it comes to certain things. And then we have to figure out how we can turn the no into a yes if it's possible. Like if your child's asking for a cookie first thing in the morning, of course that's going to be a no, but I'd rather explain it first than just outright saying no. Cookies aren't things that we eat first thing in the morning. We have to make sure that our body is growing. We need to eat foods that have fat and protein and fiber. But I'm happy to put away a cookie aside for the afternoon. And that's usually when I like to give kids, special items and um because it's not at night after dinner where they're going to be all ramped up on sugar. And so I find that that's a better place to do it. But you see the difference? The kid says, I want a cookie. No, you can't have a cookie. We have to eat breakfast first. You just got jolted, right? Like it's, wow, okay. Well, but I want a cookie. Mm. And so instead, if you have that explanation of what they need to do to help their body grow and when they can have it, is just an easier way to avoid the battle of the
mm,
nose.
I like that. um, how about yelling at your child? Because I
Mm.
think that's something that keeps coming up as our second question. People talk about um, like how to stop yelling at your child. Like sometimes you catch yourself and you're like, I don't want to be doing this. Excuse-
No one wants to yell at their child, but of course we all do. It's inevitable. We're all human, and so don't feel bad when you do it. What I like to do is first look at, well, why are we yelling? And sometimes that goes back to like what we're being triggered by, and so that's a bigger topic of like things from your childhood or whatnot. Where you not able to express your emotions? Were you more of a people pleaser? Uh, Things like that. And so that's something that you have to figure out, right?
Yeah,
We
for
can,
sure. I mean, I think a lot of times when I'm yelling other parents have said when they're yelling, like they hear their own mother or father coming out.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so it's good to be aware of that and to process that. Like, what was it like for you? Did you feel like you weren't heard as a child? You weren't acknowledged. And so when your child's not listening to you, you all of a sudden blow up at them, right? And it's triggering something inside of you that you didn't feel acknowledged as a child. And so now you're not feeling acknowledged from your child, your
Mhm.
own child. So I feel like that's a bigger topic that we can kind of dive into. So let's get to the simple ways of how to stop yelling, because we always want things that are more tangible and we don't have time to just read hundreds of books and do hundreds of hours of
And
therapy.
nobody has time. Yeah.
No. So first, uh, understanding child development. I think we have such high expectations of these little people uh, that we think that they can do a lot more than they actually can. And in
Mhm.
one hand, yes, they can. Like, yes, they can cut and chop veggies. Yes, they can help us with things. They're just on a slower pace, or they are going to do it in their own way that maybe is not the way you want to do it. Uh, Understanding that they have poor emotional regulation skills. They don't know how to regulate their emotions. So when you don't know how to regulate your own emotions, how are you going to regulate your child's, right? If you're at the library, for example, and you're screaming and yelling, how's everybody else going to be quiet? That's why the librarian is always so quiet and it makes you be quiet, right? Because she can regulate her emotions and then other people mimic. It has to do with mirror neurons, right? That you have, uh, and you're more likely to mimic what you hear and see. And then poor executive functioning skills. Kids do not have executive functioning skills. Their prefrontal cortex is not turned on until, late teens, early 20s. So they do not have time management skills. They do not have, you know, skills to plan and problem solve. These are things that we have to teach them. And I think we get into this thought process that they're supposed to know how to do these things. They need to know how to put their shoes on. They need to know that it's time to leave, that we're going to be late if we don't leave right now to get to school. But in reality, they don't, especially for children under the age of 7, right? And even after that, my tween child, you would think, yes, a 10-year-old should know, but yes and no. We have to still understand that they're still learning those time management skills. I mean, heck, I feel like as adults we are, right?
Oh, a
Uh,
thousand. I'm still learning it.
so I think when we step back and understand child development, we lower our expectations. We end up having more empathy for our child, right? And so when we have more empathy, we have more understanding, and then we don't expect them to be these perfect little mini adults. They're not, right? So that's number one. Number two, stop talking. I know that sounds weird, but we talk so much and we're so uncomfortable with the silence. We over explain, we ask so many questions that it's overwhelming to our kids, and we end up getting into a battle, which ends up leading to yelling. And so when you just sit back and close your mouth and not talk, it makes a huge difference. I don't ask my kids 1,000 times in the morning, go get dressed. We're going to be late for school. Go get dressed. Be late for school. I literally say it once. And when it's like what, like 10 minutes before we're leaving? I'm like, well, we're going to be leaving in about 10 minutes. Obviously, I tell this to my older two that understand the time. Uh, and I let them make their own decision. And if they didn't have time to eat breakfast, that's on them. They will go to school hungry. And guess what? The next day, they will know. Don't make the same mistake. That's the only way
Mm.
you learn. you know? Obviously, with the younger child, it's different, and there's ways that you can, you know, help get them out the door faster, pick things out the night before, and you can do this with your older children too. That's just something we do. I have like a little uh, wooden closet that's like an open shelving closet, and I have them pick out their clothes for the next day, and I have them put it out
Yeah, you
before
have
they go
like
to
a
bed.
almost like a coat rack situation in the living room that
Right. Um, this is more for the younger two. The older two, they pick out their own stuff, but I do have them lay out their stuff the night before, just because it's easier when
yeah,
you're
I
trying
mean,
to
we have a
figure out.
uniform, which makes it so much easier. Um,
Yes, if you have a uniform, great, but not everybody does, and um, I find that that helps avoid that kind of cycle.
uh,
Then, so stop talking, don't over explain, right? Um, the other thing is to stop arguing. I find that we like I'll sit there and see some parents, and don't get me wrong, like I've done it. I've seen my husband do it. Um, and then I think to myself, why are we arguing with a 6-year-old? They're 6. Like, and you don't realize it necessarily in the moment, but when they're trying to push back, I close my mouth and I say, hmm. I do a lot of listening, a lot of hmms in my home. I do a lot of looks, like, and when my kids come and say, like, uh, "Can I have something else for breakfast?" And I don't even say anything. I just say, I don't know, you can't see this, but when I say stop talking, I really literally mean stop talking. Um, I'll give like a look, like what do you think? Like a what do you think look without having to say that.
yeah, your looks are like really like intense.
Okay. People
By
have
the way,
said
you
yes.
pull the and the looks with your friends too.
Okay, yes, I do. Yeah, I do.
It's
It's
good for practice.
practice, right? I'm doing it for practice, right? No, it's because, I
No, it's really a change in the manner in which you behave, like for everything. So when my child was born and I first met you, one of the things you taught me was you may
oh,
go outside, or instead of you can,
can.
or I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm trying to think of an
No, no,
example of
you
what I
got it,
used,
you got it.
but you may. And somehow that just stuck with us. And we just say you may to everything now. It's just like part of my
So,
way
let's
of talking. I say it to you sometimes. You're like, "Can I do that?" I'm like, "You may." And
Uh,
um
okay,
and
well, let's explain
so
the
I
word
think learning
"may,"
the
because I think
and the
that's
listening, that's another thing I need to drill into, the equation.
your toolkit. Well, let's look at the word "may," um, instead of "can," because I think that often gets into that leads to those battles, those arguing battles, right? Um, "Mom, I wanna go outside." Well, I can't think of any other example now. But instead of saying like, "Yes, you can," uh,
You can't go outside right
or "You
now.
can't," the problem is that when you say, "Can you go put your backpack away?" Right? Let's start with that actually. "Can you go put your backpack away?" You're eliciting it's a question, "Can you or can't you?" And they can say, "No," right? So when you say, "Oh, you may go put your backpack away," it's empowering, right, to them. It's like, "Oh, you are fully capable of doing this. Now this
Yeah.
isn't gonna work on
It's a
your
great
team."
little trick because it's like,
Yeah.
you may take your shoes off again, like, you may take your
You
shoes
have
off
to
now.
be you have to own it, and it's not gonna necessarily work with your tween, so don't with your younger children, it works really beautifully, because it empowers them. They feel like they have that autonomy, but with your older child, they'll read more between the lines and say, "Well, yeah, but I'm not doing that. I don't want to."
I
So,
may not.
yeah, okay. I'm still not going to. Um, but going back to like the not yelling and how we kind of help. So we have stop talking, understanding child development, right? Having our empathy and for kids because we're lowering our expectations for them. Um, Not arguing back with a young child. Um, and that goes back to just being quiet and listening. It's not doesn't mean that you're going to take it and be disrespected, but you're not going to get into this push pull battle of who's going to win, who's going to control the situation,
Yeah.
right?
Such a good
Um,
advice because I feel like that's so often the case.
it is, it is. And then the next thing is taking a break. I think so often we forget that we need to take a break, and it's good for our kids to see that we're taking a break. And that for me, I say, I'm going to go to the bathroom or I'm going to go step outside for a minute. I'm getting really frustrated and I need to calm down.
Mm.
Because then it models for my kids, hey, when they're getting frustrated, they can take a break too. They also see that I'm not perfect. I'm not always patient. I don't, regardless of what people tell me, that I'm always patient. No, it's not. It's not true. I lose my cool. Oops. I lose my cool. um, but we go back when we do lose our cool, we repair, right? Um, so, and then the last thing I think is not making threats.
Well, that was going to be my last question is like, coming with arguing and saying no, there's a lot of threats that are
Like,
you hear parents throwing out there like if you don't do that, you won't get dessert or
yeah,
you
if you don't finish
don't
your food, you're not getting dessert. Or if you don't finish your food, we're leaving right now. That's very common. And so the problem with threats is twofold. One, they don't work. And two, most threats get they get they don't get followed through, right?
right like
Uh,
if you don't stop doing that, we're leaving the restaurant. But
but
then
then
you
you
have
don't
to be
actually
prepared to
leave.
leave the restaurant. That's a number
Yeah.
one Dr.
Number
Organic
one
Mommy
thing,
tip that you always say. You
be
better be
prepared.
prepared to go.
Be prepared to go. Now, that said, I don't like threats. And I try to tell people instead of saying, if you don't do this, then this is going to happen, say, when we don't do that, when we do this, like, sorry, reframe it to like have the positive. When we do this, then we can do that. So when we eat the different foods on our plate, then then we'll be able to stay at the restaurant. Then we'll be able to eat other foods if we're still hungry, right? And so it's more, it's not as controlling, right? Um, and if when you do need to leave a restaurant, that's okay. But instead of threatening, I like to tell the child, your body right now is showing me that we need to go take a break. Your body is not calm right now. So I'm going to pick you up, and we're going to go take a break. And I think we wait too long to actually take that break. And then we threaten, right? Because then we get overwhelmed. And then I
Mm.
think the other thing I notice is you have to be ready to get up because most parents don't want to actually get up, right? And I get
I
it.
mean, can
Like,
you blame them? It's a lot.
no,
I get
you're
it. Like,
exhausted, and I
yeah.
get it. Like, you're tired and, we worked all day or you're pregnant or whatever it is. Like, you've got other kids there, you know, it's a lot. Um, but that's the only way you teach your child. When they throw the toy on the ground at dinner, you don't go pick it up. You're going to say, you're showing me you're not ready to play right now, but we're going to pick up the toy. I'm going to pick you up and you're going to pick up the toy. They whine, cry, they're having a tantrum, right? This is not where you get into the battle where they say you have to go pick up the toy right now. They're not physically able to. So then your job is to help them regulate their emotions. So first, we have to regulate their emotions. That means we go and take a break. I'm going to help you go take a break to help your body calm down. We walk away from the overwhelming environment, the dinner table, the restaurant, wherever you are, the park, and you go take them away. You don't leave them, you're with them, right? And you let them have that tantrum. You let them have those feelings. Let them scream. You're not going to let them hit you. They're calling you words, saying whatever to you. You're going to wait till they're calm. Once they're calm, then you can talk to them about the language to use. Right then, you didn't show me you had sunshine in your heart. You said some words that were very unkind. That's not okay to do. You may say you're mad that you don't like something, but you may not use the word stupid or whatever it is, right? And you calm them down and you talk about that with them. So,
I think that's toward that sound of children means that it's time to end this podcast.
yes, it does, because I only could kick them out of the room for so long.
Well, I think we did it. You helped us all a lot, and the giveaways are pretty epic, to say the least. You definitely have sunshine in your heart.
Mm. You're like, what is that?
It's throwing that one back at you.
There we go. All right, so let us know in the comments if you guys want a deeper dive on this, more examples.
More
Happy to
scripts.
go through that, or if this was enough and this got you, gets you through it.
Good. Bye.